Hello there. My name is David Stevens. I'm the Industrial Applications Manager for Trotec Laser. And today we're going to cover laser processing with Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is a very powerful graphic design software that can operate the CO2 laser and cutting and engraving systems with ease. And today we're going to cover the details to which it takes to make that software compatible with said laser. This seminar is a digital download. If you want to scan this QR code, you can follow along on your own digital device, phone, tablet, or other computer device, and actually have access to the videos. Laser processing with Adobe Illustrator is a very easy process. Adobe Illustrator software with a laser system provides some advantages over other software. This seminar will explore these advantages, such as how to set up this software. And we're going to cover that, as well as designing some basic files for laser systems. And then lastly, some free online sources for Adobe Illustrator training. This course is not for the advanced user. This is for the operator that is just getting involved or may have some experience with Adobe Illustrator, but needs to know the differences to set that to set Illustrator up to operate with the laser system. Advanced operation techniques and training courses are beyond this course and may not be suited for you. However, at the end of this course, there will be many free online sources for training tutorials, whether you're beginner or as well as advanced. So stay tuned to the end of this course for this resource. The laser system needs just a few things to work properly with Adobe Illustrator. It needs to have the ability to adjust the field size so that your page sizes correctly, the ruler setup, set up the color swatch to match the laser color palette, as well as the line thickness so the laser can identify what is a cut path versus an engraving or a marking path. And I'm going to go through each one of these today to showcase how you're able to set these capabilities up to operate your laser system properly. To set up your field within Adobe Illustrator, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to File, then you're going to go to New, and then we're going to actually go to a new page, and then we're going to actually change the name here. This screen that you see in place here kind of showcase the starting of the new screen. You have the ability to set up your name, the width and the height of your page. So you would actually match the field size in this case of your laser system. If you have a 24 by 12 machine, you would put in the width at 24, your height at 12 inches. In this case, it's a Speedy 360, which is 32 by 20, and then we would put it in as landscape. We'd also set up the RGB color mode because the laser actually utilizes RGB as its base color. Raster effects, I typically set this up at 300 dpi, but that is not necessary. It's more for screen resolutions. Your units would be either inches or metric, depending on your preferences. And then once you have this all set up the way that you would like for your laser system, you would then select OK or Create. At that point, a new screen will open up into your Adobe Illustrator program. My next step would be to set up the rulers. You don't have to set the rulers up, but rulers are nice because they give you the orientation for positioning, especially if you're utilizing the full field. Also, it's nice to know with a ruler so that when you're designing a file, you get kind of a sense of orientation of how large that file is and how small. Turning on the rulers is very simple. You would select the drop-down menu at the top, View, shown here. Then you would select Rulers, and then click on Show Rulers. Or you can just use the quick key, Control plus R, and that will turn your rulers on. The most important thing to setting up Adobe Illustrator as well as any graphic design software to be operational with the laser system is to make sure that the color palette on the design software is known as the color swatch in Adobe Illustrator is set up properly to match the printer driver, or in our case Adobe Illustrator needs to be set up with job control so that the driver colors are an exact RGB match as the color palette used onto Adobe Illustrator. Now, there is no preset. You can use standard RGB colors, but they're not going to be in any specific order, such as you see here. And so what I have done is I have created an online swatch to where you can actually go on and download it. There's a QR code right here in the left lower part of the screen here. You can scan this code and actually download the color swatch for Trotec lasers. To load that swatch, what you would need to do is select the swatch drop-down menu shown here, and then click on Open Swatch Library, then select Other Library, and then select the downloaded file that you can get from this QR code. This will allow you to load up the swatch file to match it perfectly. Now, if you don't have access to this, or if you don't have access to the internet and want to still have these color palettes, the next step is you can actually design the color palette separately, or you can basically create your own color palette. Manual setup of Adobe Illustrator switch is still possible. And to do that, I have provided a color chart here to which is the necessary specific color percentages in order for the Trotec driver to work. And so what you can do is you can select any similar color on your existing swatch by selecting the drop-down menu in the top upper left-hand corner of your screen. And you can actually select each color, and you can type in the name of the color, which you can see here, the color mode, which is RGB, and then the actual percentage of RGB, which is red, green, blue. In this case, the color red would be 255 red, which is the R color, the 0G, which is the green, and then 0B, which is the blue. And as you can see, once you hit OK, it would now set that color red up for the color swatch to be correctly set for Trotec laser. And then you would continue to do that with every color that you would want to do, up to all 16 color modes that are available on Trotec's color swatch. If you have a different brand of laser, then you would need to find this color chart. Most manufacturers of laser systems will provide this chart, and you can take their numbers and you can also put them in the same way. Once you have the color swatch all set up, the page size set up, in order to actually cut with the laser systems need not only a specific color, but also a line weight, or a stroke weight is what it's called in Adobe Illustrator. In this case, I typically set it for as thin of a stroke weight as you can get. And it doesn't matter if it's in inches or in points, typically the thinnest you can possibly make it. So an outline image with a stroke weight of 0.001 point or inches, either one will work in this case, will be identified as a cut path. If it's too thick, the laser system will see those lines not as a cut path, but as an engraving area. And when you go to send it to the laser, instead of cutting this line, it will try to engrave it. And this is caused by either the color being incorrect or the line thickness being too large. So make certain that the color's right, and well as the outline in this case for cut is set correctly. The Trotec logo in this case is filled with a black solid fill, and then the outline is set with a RGB red outline in this case to showcase the cutting ability. Once you have your template or page now set up, instead of having to do this every time you open up Adobe Illustrator, I suggest that you set up a template. Template is basically a default field so that you can open up and then bring all your files in there. Don't open up somebody else's file and expect it to work with the laser, because on Adobe Illustrator it typically will not. Your best bet is to save your file as a template, as you see here. Basically save that file that we just set up, the field size and page, as a template by going to File, Save as Template, and then put it into a known location on your computer, typically maybe like the name of the machine. And then when you need to use it again, or every time you open up Adobe Illustrator to operate, don't open somebody else's file from their file. What you will want to do is open up your template, and then you'll want to place their file into this template. I know it's tempting to select someone else's file if they email it to you to operate with the laser, and then just open it up. The problem with doing that is the attributes for their software setup is going to come with their design in that file. So if their line thickness, their colors are all set incorrectly, it may not work with the laser. You can open theirs up separately and copy and paste it into the template, but ultimately if you want the laser to work consistently, I do recommend that you actually copy and paste or file import or place them into it. It's known as place to bring in or import that graphic into the template. And then you can resave it at that point as the same name so that not to get it confused. But now the attributes of the laser are set in with the design. Or if you're starting a new design, from now on you will hit File, New from Template, select this templated file, and then start your job from there. Once you have your file design and some basic stuff, it's now ready to print to the laser. To print to the laser, it's no different than printing to any standard printer. You would select File, then Print or Control P. Then select your printer, which is the engraver in this case, and then click on Setup. The setup would be the same as you would change maybe the size of a page. Once you hit Setup, you would go into Preferences, and the Preferences will then take you into all those details to make the change to the laser system itself. So as you see here, open up the laser driver, which we're not going to show in this case because it can vary based on brand, it can vary based on type, and then adjust your lap power and speed settings and the material settings. Once you have done that and made your adjustments to power, speed, thickness, power, material, you would then select the print button afterwards, and then you would hit the print button again, which would then take the file to your job control or your laser print control panel to then go ahead and operate with the laser. If for some reason when sending your files to the laser from Adobe Illustrator, your file does not show up, in this case with a black fill and a red outline for cutting, then something was set up incorrectly in Adobe Illustrator. The line was not set up right, colors may not be set up right. Those are typically the only things that'll keep that from happening, but make certain that they are correct. And so if they open up in your control, in the case of Trotec's job control, if they open up properly, showcasing a black fill and a red outline, then you're good to go. The laser will engrave the black and cut the red. And you can also utilize other colors, but those colors should show up on the screen in the job control if set up properly in Adobe Illustrator. And then you can go ahead and laser away, lasering all kinds of fun and exciting things with your laser systems, from acrylics to chocolate to beef jerky. Really is no limitation to what a laser systems can do. In my opinion, they're one of the most diverse pieces of technology on the planet, in the case that they can pretty much work with virtually all materials or do something with most materials. And they can cut most organic or combustible materials, and they can mark most materials as well. So it's a very extremely diverse product that can produce unbelievable amount of examples and products. Once you have your basic operation taken care of, or basic setup Adobe Illustrator taken care of, you want to move forward with your basic operation. If you're not familiar with running Adobe Illustrator and this is kind of your first time, then this is going to give you some more information on how to do some basic operation. Here is a Adobe Illustrator tool panel. The tool panel is basically your main toolbar on the left side of your page when you open up Adobe Illustrator. These are all the tools that allow specific processes and details. We're not going to get into most of these because this can take people actually go to school just for this software alone, graphic designers. What I do want to do is give you a basic understanding of how to create a simple design and then cut that physical design out so that you can kind of understand what the laser needs to do in order to operate from this software. And then I will give you advanced training techniques, and you can involve yourself into all these different details and tools that are available. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You look on a rectangle tool, it's going to give you a rectangle. The star is going to give you a star. Your pen's going to give you a freehand. There's a ton of resources out there for Adobe Illustrator because it is such a large company, which makes this it makes those resources very available because of the saturation of the product itself. For basic setup, just to give you an idea of the things that you'll need for laser processing. When you open up a page, here is where your selection tool is located here on the upper left. Below that is your text tool, so say if you're typing in text. Your zoom tool at the bottom. These are the ones you're going to need for just basic operation. On the top here, in the upper left top, you can see the fill and the outline. So the left arrow here is shown as the fill. When you select that drop-down menu, you can fill the color with black, for example, which is what we're going to do for a basic. To the right of that is the outline. So if you're producing just an outline, I would put the little slash through the middle on the fill and then just the outline so that I have a cut path. If I want to fill it, then I would want that color to be processed. Next to that, here to the right, is the stroke weight, which is your line thickness. If it's too thick, again, the laser will not see this as a cut path, and the laser will not cut. If you just want to engrave that line, thicker lines will work, and it'll engrave that line just like a printer will apply ink. But if you want it to follow a path and physically cut through or physically produce a mark, then the line thickness has to be set properly and the color has to be set right. Over here to the right is your location and size. So if you want to know where it's located on the field and the size of the actual product. And so if you need a box that's 2 by 3 inches, you can type it in. You can change the reference to where it's inches or if it's points. Your choice, the preferences of how you set your files up is entirely up to you. But knowing where to place this in and where it's at, this is your basic understanding of these tools. Here's a simple process video of the process of creating just a simple design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my main tool, and I'm going to select the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool is going to give me the ability to just click and drag a rectangle out, and it's just going to give me a solid black filled rectangle at this point. But if I want to cut this out, I'm going to need to identify this as either no fill. So in this case, I'm going to remove the fill. And then I'm going to need to change the outline color to a different color, in this case red, which is kind of our preset default for cutting. So now that I've got a non-filled image with a red outline, I will then select File and then Place, and I'm going to actually drop in a logo in this case from from an existing file. In this case, it's a Trotec logo, and I'm going to place that file in there. This is also known as importing. And when I click and drag that logo in place now, it's then going to drop that logo in place. We're now going to orient these two by selecting them both together. And we're going to select the little button here at the top for horizontal and vertical alignment so that my logo is located in the very, very center of the box in this case. Then I'm going to select the box. This can be done before, this can be done at any time as long as it's done. And I'm going to set my stroke weight or my line thickness to as thin as it can go in this case, which is 0.001. And then I'm going to select. And as you can see, the line is much thinner. It's almost hard to see on the screen here. And we are now ready to go. The file can now be printed to the laser. If you do want to size it, in this case, I selected the whole thing, and I'm going to put in an actual size to whatever width or dimension. The little lock right here in the center of the sizing will give me the ability to keep the aspect ratio, or you can type in both dimensions. We're zooming now. Select the little zoom tool. The zoom tool is going to give you the ability to kind of get in there and see exactly what we're working with. Make sure that the product is exactly what you want. Once you have it set up the way you want it, we can go ahead and hit File and Print. And whether you're printing this to your inkjet printer, your laser printer, or the laser system, in this case, we would then select the type of laser that we're going to run, click on Setup, then on Preferences, and that's going to take you into the printer driver, allowing you to put in power, speeds, feeds, or just selecting on a specific material to cut, mark, or engrave. That is the basics of just the basic operation of Adobe Illustrator, some basic understanding of how to create a simple file, simple design within Adobe Illustrator, as well as setting it up so that it works properly with the laser system. Now, Adobe Illustrator can take years to master, but ultimately this tutorial is designed to get you started in the process so that you have a good understanding of what the software needs to be seen in order to work with the laser system so that you can draw a simple design, you can cut, you can engrave. Now, if you want to go further and really want to know the ins and outs, this is a great resource right here. If you want to scan this QR code on the screen here with your phone or your iPad, or if you select the link at the bottom of this screen or type in this link, it will take you to the Adobe Illustrator support area. This support area is designed to teach very, very basic beginning types sources all the way through advanced techniques and abilities. So You can go through, select the link on this, and then watch all the different videos. I suggest having a second computer or a tablet or a computer with multiple screens so that you can follow along on the one side. The nice part about these tutorials is they also provide the files, so you can actually start with the file that they're working on. You can open it up in your Adobe Illustrator and have that ability to follow along on the same project. They are all done by Adobe Illustrator. They are free of charge and will allow you to expand your skills in Adobe Illustrator, whether you're an existing expert and you just want to know more, or if you're a novice then you're just getting started. This is the resource to get you going with this software. Most will use this software because they already have it, and there's no reason to recreate the wheel or relearn a software if you already know a specific software. But you can always learn more and always know different processes to do different things, because the more powerful your design software is, the more powerful your laser becomes. And the more abilities you have to design things, you have more abilities to actually expand the capabilities of CO2 laser cutting and engraving systems. Any questions? My direct email address is david.stevens@troteclaser.com. You can contact me anytime with these type of questions. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with your laser engraving and Adobe Illustrator.